Coming up in 15 minutes, we got some tickets to give away.
Yeah.
At the end of this Titans conversation, we will have tickets for you to hang out with us. Woo. Yes, we will be there. So it's not one of those where we're just giving you tickets and tell you what time to be home, before it's dark out. Right. We have teamed up with the Nashville Sounds for another party with our listeners. Wednesday, that's this Wednesday, August the 2nd, as the Sounds host the Durham Bulls. In 15 minutes, we will have your chance to win some tickets. So don't go anywhere.
Nice. And if you call now, you ain't going to win it.
Yeah, if you call now, then you're not going to get any tickets.
I'll remember your voice.
Yeah,
and
you'll
like
be on Bert's bad list.
That's right. Who has been a pleasant surprise or someone who has impressed you at Titans training camp so far? I think it's fair to say who Mike Vrabel would pick, and we've got the audio of that coming up here in a minute. But who have you guys seen over the last 3 practices who has caught your eye so far?
Me personally, I go first. You've seen more than I have, Kayla. So far, it's Arden Key.
Yeah.
Arden.
Love that guy.
His rush, his intensity, the way he's pushing these tackles that need to be pushed right now, though, too. He does it without a care. It's just what he does. Having a guy like that, like you need certain type of flavors on your team. Mm-hmm. He's a flavor that every team wants. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That one guy that works hard and they are cheerful about working.
Yeah.
That's him. Like, he wins, so what? I'm supposed to win. You know what I'm saying? He have a bad play, so what? I'm supposed to have a bad play too. Like, seeing him do that type of work is one of the things you say to yourself, you need to have your mind right if you play NFL football because he can really capitalize off of that. So Arden Key is my pick.
And it's hard to miss Arden Key because he is so vocal out there. Even Big Jeff said the minute he walks in that building, I think he shared a story on Saturday that Arden Key was in the training room and just hopped in the cold tub and said, "Let's go," or something crazy, just like in the middle of the morning, right? Before they even got on the practice field. Just ready to get the day going. And him and Jeff Simmons compete out there. Like, they'll tell you they're competing for how many sacks they can get.
I love how Jeff does that. Jeff picks a battle with everybody.
He does.
It was, who was it last year that he picked a battle with more times from State? Golly.
Was it?
Danico.
Was it
Danico?
Yeah.
Or him and Harold. I mean, like, Jeff does
good
that.
At that.
Yeah, he's good at that.
Jeff's good
it wasn't
at that.
Harold last year, but before,
So I'm going to go on the opposite side, and I'm going to go Rashad Weaver. Look, there's not been in one practice that I've not seen Rashad make a play. Rashad made an incredible play on Saturday where he pretty much got up in Willis's face and batted down and got the interception. And actually, Jeffrey Simmons joked and said Mike Vrabel's a little bit worried that he was getting too close to the quarterback in that situation. But him and Harold were just jacked on the sideline, too. When Rashad Weaver came to the sideline, Harold was just like, smile on his face, like, oh, man, this is... And why I say that's important for Rashad Weaver to be showing out like this is because he has put in the work, but he needs to be a depth player for them. And it's so important on that defensive line to have that depth.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to make that line even more deadly and that defense even more deadly is to have the guys that can just come in, right?
Yep.
So he's off to an incredible start from what I've seen.
From my perspective, from someone who hasn't been out at practice in person, yet is following the reports and the videos and the conversation around each practice, it's hard not to be impressed by how quickly DeAndre Hopkins has made his presence felt at practice.
Yeah.
And it feels completely different, guys, to me than Julio Jones did because Julio Jones at this point of Titans training camp was already hurt.
Yep.
He already had his first hamstring injury. And genuinely, it was on his first catch.
You're right.
At Titans training camp 2 years ago in the back of the end zone. So DeAndre Hopkins has already outperformed the first training camp for Julio Jones because he's available and playing. And I think when you set the expectation that DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss a couple of the early practices, and then he is there, it kind of gives you the ability to just give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit of, hey, this guy came in with a conflict, a scheduling thing that's, unbeknownst to the general public and was catching a flight and, left the first practice halfway through.
But he's been at all the rest.
But Mike Vrabel said originally, he might have to miss the first couple of days, and then he was there. So that, to me, is, okay, that's impressive. Maybe I'm giving him too much of the benefit of the doubt there, but when you're talking about guys who have made highlight catches and have made retweetable plays, DeAndre Hopkins is number one on that list so far from Titans camp.
And also made quote tweets that said, not bad for a guy that doesn't practice.
And unlike a former Titans wide receiver, he does not delete those tweets after the fact when he goes after somebody's neck.
Yeah.
It's funny. He's been on social media for the last week, just kind of like coming at random people, or if there's like a good play or something, like he'll retweet it. I think it's really funny that he kind of keeps up with that stuff, but it doesn't seem to bother him. It seems to be something that feeds the beast in a way.
Yes.
So I kind of enjoy that. And when we spoke to him at the podium, I think it was Saturday, it's interesting. He's really a soft-spoken kind of guy too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you wouldn't really think that that's the way he is, because just what he does on the field is so impressive. But he's just kind of a cool, calm, collective guy when he's in front of the media, at least us early on. And I thought Will would enjoy this. He's a big fan of Lionel Messi. He wears the number 10 really because he has always grown up a fan of him, and he loves soccer.
Yep.
So I asked him, are you going to go to a Nashville SC game? And he says, I've heard that's a pretty cool stadium. So you need to get him to a Nashville SC game, Will.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hook him up.
You will.
Trying to see. I wonder if we play Houston, we could take another thing from them
There we go.
for the rest of
Perfect.
the season.
I like that.
He gonna always find a way
Right?
to take a dig, man.
I'm sure D-Hop
do
would
not.
be up for
Do
that.
not play that. Okay,
Dang.
that was good, man.
Miami play here?
No, they do not. We already
Okay.
saw Miami play here because that was our RKW night out.
That's right. That was that game. I was going to say.
It was.
Nashville SC will play Lionel Messi on August the 30th on a Wednesday night at Drive Pink Stadium down in Miami. Down in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale.
And that was talking
there.
soccer.
There we go.
Hey, there we go. Paid it off.
615-737-1045, the number. Trippin' Titans at the F&M Bank chat asks, curious how the starting corners work out. Is McCrary really better than Sean Murphy Bunting? I don't think they're playing the same
Yeah,
position
No,
at
it's
this
not
point.
the same thing.
Yeah,
No.
can't really give too much detail on where guys are playing, but I would argue that Roger McCreary's most natural position coming into the NFL is inside corner.
Correct.
And with his size, with his arm length, with his skill set, he is going to be a best fit inside versus outside. I had to play outside based off of need last year because, well, the guy that Mike Vrabel keeps complimenting wasn't available.
Yeah.
And that's Christian Fulton. And when Mike Vrabel says things like this, you perk up a little bit because when Mike Vrabel gives praise or gives criticism, different than the normal stock Belichickian answers, it catches your attention because he's trying to send a message to somebody, whether it's the person in question or the other people in the room that plays with that person. This was Mike Vrabel giving a noteworthy comment over the weekend on Christian Fulton.
Trying to stay consistent and be good in the multiple coverages that we're asking him to play. And again, just his physical to me, he just, and again, there were times last year early on, just from his rehab and things that he was going through, he just looks, physically he looked better. Physically he looked, selling this morning at breakfast. And you at your weight, we're monitoring that. And those are things, we have guys that have different problems than the head coach. They have trouble keeping weight on. And so, we monitor that and making sure that for these hot days that they're eating, and Lauren and Frank and Todd are on top of that. So, that's part of, I think Christian, just his overall strength and his size, that he can be 195 pounds and still be athletic and still be able to run and transition. So far so good.
There's Mike Vrabel over the weekend on Christian Fulton, and it raises the question, Ramon, from your perspective as a former player, does every player have a specific weight where they feel their best? And how big is that range?
Oh, yeah. It's within like 5 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, within 5
That small?
pounds. Yeah, I know. But it goes that way, so you have to find a level of adjusting whenever you hit above or below that, too. I've seen guys be nervous about being underweight. Like, the Christian Fulton's probably a guy that if you didn't catch him, he'd probably weigh in with like a 5-pound weight in his pants. Like, I've seen DBs do that. Of course, I've seen offensive linemen and defensive linemen do the exact same, or tight ends and linebackers. Like, seeing a guy be playing well at 235, but then if they hit 242, Strength coach going to say a little something. Coach going to say, hey, we need to make sure we keep this in line because if it goes up, then you got to watch it and make sure it doesn't go any further. But and this is the thing, too, the optics of what you actually see in correlation to what you know. If a coach thinks you're a tick slower because you've gained a couple pounds, then it's true. Mm-hmm. Not even if you're, hey, coach, I'm a little hurt right now. Well, it's probably because you got a couple extra pounds. It's within like a 5 to 7 pound range as to where guys feel comfortable at. And for a guy like Christian Fulton, who's trained hard, it's probably been it's probably so locked in on his mind now moving forward because he actually was challenged to it also this offseason that it's become a part of his lifestyle now. So it's probably why he feels a little bit better about it, making sure that he's eating. Vrabel notices a little bit more too. And it just gives the one thing that you don't have to worry about anymore. Let's just play football.
Well, and you're exactly right. I went up to Christian after practice, and look, he looks different, guys. He looks completely different.
Yeah.
And I said, awesome for you, like, to be able to do what you did in the offseason. And he's like, yeah, I just want to try something different. I feel good. Mm-hmm. And it's showing out on the field. Yeah. Like, there's a difference between what I see in Christian Fulton in previous training camps and what I'm seeing out of him in this camp. He feels confident in not only what he's doing, but his body. Yeah. Like, and that maybe he's not going to, after this play, pull a hammy. Like, he's been, maybe not properly ready to go into the season
Probably didn't
before.
Know how to.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I feel like it's different, and you see that out on the field. And that's going up against a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, which he's seen already several times in practice and one-on-ones.
But the best thing about all of this is you have a good coach and Vrabel. It's one thing for a coach to publicly criticize somebody. And he went at Christian Fulton.
Right.
He went at some other guys that's not on this team, too. The sign of a good coach is being able to, critique somebody, be hard on them, but guide them through the process, tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing. And on the back end of this, Vrabel comes back on this past Saturday and said, hey, my guy did what he was supposed to do. You know what that does for Christian Fulton moving forward?
Yeah.
It catapults him.
Yeah.
Mentally more than anything, knowing he got my back because I did what I was supposed to do.
We also trusted Christian to go do his thing with his trainer.
Yep.
And he wasn't at the first part of OTAs. That didn't seem to be an issue now.
Yep.
So.
Sign of a good coach that understands
you're right.
his player.
I would be curious to know how much input the Titans and the training staff and Mike Vrabel specifically had with Christian's personal trainers on what they wanted him doing. Mm-hmm. Because it feels like there could be two situations at play here. Either Christian Fulton, after hearing Mike Vrabel's public criticism of him, leaned more into the Titans' way of thinking and went offside a little bit and did something that was different to the advice of the Titans organization. Or there's what I think probably did happen, where Christian Fulton said, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself and figure out a way to train on my own. And I'm going to prove to you that I'm not lazy and this is on you guys for not training me the right way. Because at face value, guys, I got to be honest, this is not a ringing endorsement of the Titans offseason program. Of, hey, a guy practices with you all offseason, is with you all training camp, doesn't miss any kind of practices, and then gets criticized for not being in good enough shape. And then he goes off campus and goes off site to work out. And now you're saying, oh, he looks better than he ever has before. It's not great.
No. He's not the only leader on this team either who's practicing. Kevin Byard goes to his
right.
Yeah.
And Amani has done that with
Derrick Henry.
I would push back just a smidge on that, though, Will, too. I think you training in-house for that first couple, 2-3 years that he's done it is probably a good baseline to know what you should and should not do.
It's
to be fair to the trainers that the Titans have, the weight staff. But some guys have to go to the Olympic-style lifts. You feel me?
And that's why I say at face value. I'm not going to pretend to know what's happening behind closed doors when it comes to the Titans, their training staff. I'm giving the listener and you guys the two options of the way this looks from the outside. And we can speculate on whichever one it is. But at face value, Mike Vrabel is risking kind of taking a little bit of a hit there by criticizing and then now complimenting a guy after he does something not within the building.
And I'll say this, to be fair to the trainers or the weight staff inside, so I know this to be true. Those guys are employed by the team. Those guys, if they get you hurt more times than not, will also be fired too, is the point behind it. Like some trainers and NFL staffs are injury prevention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here to push you, hey, we hit 405 for 2. There's no reason for us to do 455 for 6. You know what I'm saying? Like, our threshold is good to where your off-site trainer, my guy here, would just be like, hey, let's do another one. You know what I'm saying? Because they see you different. Mm-hmm. They enjoy working with the guy that they know is selling out as much as they possibly can to be the best they possibly want to be too. So when you have an off-site guy that focuses solely on you, that know you, see you every single day, know when you're hurting, like, it is a different mindset from those off-site trainers.
And I just think as long as Mike Vrabel and that staff are okay with then if these guys aren't getting the results that they need to with what's going on at that facility in the offseason, if they're okay with them going and finding their own guy and working with them for what's right for their body, and they accept that, then that's cool, you know? Because everybody's different, and every position is different in how you need to train and how you need to feel comfortable coming back. And the older you get, the more you realize that too.
Mm-hmm.
So just as long as the communication is there and they understand that, I think that's the way that they should work with these types of things in the future. If they're not getting it there, let them go out and do their thing with their trainer.
Real pro.
I think it's fair to assume, too, that Mike Vrabel has probably evolved in that level of thinking as well since his first season as a head coach in 2018.
100%.
I listened to his full conversation with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton on Bussin' with the Boys over the weekend. Mm-hmm. It's actually one thing Taylor says right off the jump from that interview is, you do a really good job talking to Vrabel of switching from drill sergeant to one of the boys when he needs to and has the space to.
Yeah.
Basically says, you do a really good job of switching from disciplinarian and kind of a jerk on the practice field sometimes and in the film room to, like, being an advocate for the players.
Yeah.
And it feels like he's not softened a little bit since he first got here, but he picks and chooses his moments a bit more carefully to be strict and to be really stern with the players.
I agree. And that's the evolution of a coach too, right? You got to have that.
It is.
Coming up, Kayla's conversation with Titans corner Roger McCreary coming off the practice field over the weekend and new insight into Chris Harris's way of coaching.